Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. It is story time with Miss Shalon. So this month is Women's Month from March. And so we're going to be reading books about women, and it's also Dental Month as well. So tonight's story is going to be about Emmeline Pankhurst. So it's about little people with big dreams. So we're going to read about this lady here. Emmeline was born into a big family in a nice house in Manchester, England. So you see how those kids look back then? At the at the time she grew up, life was hard for many people. Her parents did whatever they could to help, and they often brought young Emmeline along. Emmeline learned to read when she was 3. Wow, that's really good. And it became her favorite thing to do. She read newspapers and books after books, drawn to stories of heroes who fought for others. She dreamt about who she might become. So she started reading when she was 3. Wow. But Emmeline didn't have many choices because she was a girl. See, back then, girls didn't have a lot of choices. One night, she heard her father say that it was too bad she wasn't a boy. She wouldn't go to college, get a job, or even vote like her brothers. Emmeline, she didn't understand why. She began to read about women's rights, and she begged her mother to bring her to a meeting so she could learn more. There, Emmeline heard that women in England, like many other countries, were treated unfairly. They needed the right to a vote in order to change things. Emmeline knew what she had to do. As soon as Emmeline finished high school, she began working for women's rights. One of the leaders of the cause was a lawyer named Richard, who also believed that women should be equal to men. The two fell in love working side by side to help women win the right to vote. Emmeline and Richard married and had a family. For many years, they tried to get voting rights for women, but nothing changed. Sadly, Richard became sick and died, leaving Emmeline with 4 children, little money, and no rights as women. Emmeline had to work very hard to support her family, but she didn't stop supporting women's rights. Soon, it was her daughters who begged Emmeline to take them to meetings. They asked why women had been following unfair rules for so long. Emmeline got her daughters. Emmeline and her daughters became the leaders of a new group of women. A group of women that would stop following the rules and would fight for their rights. People called them suffragettes. They started by speaking out on street corners and at fairs. They stood up to protest at big meetings. Some people laughed at them, but others began to listen. So they are making a change. Small, but they're making a change. The government tried to stop them, so they fought harder. They marched in the streets, they broke windows, set fires, and chained themselves to rails. Even though some women were hurt and others arrested, more and more women joined Emmeline's group. They were braver than anyone had imagined. So these women, they were standing up for their rights. I'm sorry. Women are human beings. In between spending many days in prison, Emmeline's traveled to the United States and spoke at big theaters. People gathered by the thousands to hear her. She told them she would keep fighting until every woman was free to do the same thing as men. So that means she's fighting for women's rights. Then a great war broke out and lots of men went off to fight. Emmeline encouraged suffragettes to take over jobs that only men had done. They were stronger than anyone had believed. I'm sorry, we got the vacuum cleaner going. After the war, Emmeline's dream came true. Women would finally get their right to vote. By fighting for others, Emmeline had done what no one thought a little girl could do. She had become a hero. So, Emmeline Pankhurst. So, this is a true story. Emmeline Pankhurst was one of the world's most influential activists who helped British women win the right to vote. Born in Manchester, England, Emmeline was inspired at a young age by rights of suffrage. With her mother at the age 14, she soon began working for suffrage, eventually married one of its leaders, Richard Pankhurst. When Richard died unexpectedly, Emily raised their four children and worked while continuing to fight for suffrage. Emily and her daughter started a new women's activist group that encouraged women to demand their rights with deeds, not words, protesting in ways only men had before. They were often hurt, arrested, but they kept fighting, gaining support worldwide, and changing the way people thought about women. During World War I, Emmeline's suffrage army stopped protests and took jobs that men left behind, which helped the country and showed how capable women were. The British government gave all women the rights to vote. Shortly after Emmeline died, and many other countries followed suit. Emmeline's heroism and leadership changed the minds of an entire nation and changed the lives of women forever. So she helped change my life by letting people know that we as women, we can do some of the same jobs that men do. Because back when I was in school, it was mainly, men who were principals. But with Emmeline now, I'm able to be a principal. So you guys have a good night, and I'll see you in the morning.